Let me give you an example for Chapter 6. As we look at companies that sell multiple types of products, our break-even point gets rather complex. So let's take a look at how we can calculate our break-even point using multiple products by finding that weighted average contribution margin. So to do this, the first thing we want to find out is what is our weighted average unit contribution margin. What we're going to do, they've already given us here in this line our contribution margin per unit for each product. They've also already calculated our sales mix. So we have that information. We'll use that to find that weighted average contribution margin. We're going to take each product's cost. The shoes are $40, and we're going to multiply it by, take that contribution margin, multiply that by our sales mix for each product. That's 35%. Then we're going to take the $20 for the gloves, multiply that by 55%. We're going to take the range finder, which their contribution margin is 60, and multiply that by the 10%. Doing this, I'll have to do a little math here. That will help. Should be 11, and finally the 40 times 0.35 should be 14. So if I add this all together, we're looking at $31. This is my weighted average contribution margin. So to find that second step, now that we have this, we can find our break-even point. It tells me my fixed costs, and they want it in units. So I take my fixed cost and I divide that by my contribution margin per unit, just like we learned in the last chapter. My fixed costs here are $620,000. I divide that by that 31,000, which is going to give me a break-even point of 20,000 units. Now I'm going to use that sales mix again to then break this back apart to determine how much of each product I need to sell. So I have shoes, I have gloves, and I have this range finder. So I need to sell 20,000 units to break even. So I'm going to use that 20,000, and I'm going to multiply them each by their sales mix, which means to get to that break-even point, I need to sell 7,000 pairs of shoes, 11,000 pairs of gloves, and 2,000 of those range finders. The last part of this is looking at how then to prove that you did this right. You want to make sure you check the figures, that you use the right percentages, and that you got it right. So we're going to do a quick and easy contribution format income statement and make sure that our net income is 0, which will prove that we've hit our break-even point. We start with our sales, and we're going to look at each product. We have those shoes, we have gloves, and we have that finder. So based on our break-even point, for shoes we have to sell 7,000, 11,000 for gloves, and 2,000 for the finder. I'll look here to find that sales price for each of these to get what my total sales are going to be. 700,000. Do this math, that's 330,000 and 520,000. Then I'm going to subtract all of my variable cost. I think your homework wants this number in total, but you can't do that unless you look at it by product. They're giving you those costs per unit, variable costs. For gloves, we're selling 11,000. The variable costs were 10, and the Range Rover 2,000. Those variable costs were 200. So I'll do all of this math now. So looking at this in total, my total sales were 1,550,000. Let's look at these variable costs. I can do the math. This comes to 420,000 to 110,000 and 400,000, giving me a grand total variable cost of 930,000. I can subtract sales minus variable cost, which will give me my contribution margin. If I do that, it comes to 620,000. This should equal my fixed costs, because the next step is to subtract those fixed costs, which were also 620,000, verifying that I did break even. Hopefully that helped. If you have more questions, please email me.